ロケーションウィークリージャパンです。今日はですね、4年ぶりぐらいになりますけれども、ザ・ LBMA のアシフ・カーンに来てもらっています。Asif, thank you for coming onto the show. It's been 4 years since we had this recording last time. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. And yeah, great to be here. Great to reconnect with the audience and to see that the LBMA in Japan is continuing to grow and do well. So yeah, everything is still moving and location is still relevant around the world.
Yeah. It's been 4 years and I don't think the original audience remains anymore. But so if you could introduce yourself and about the LBMA as well.
Yeah, so Asif Khan, I'm the founder and co-president of the Location-Based Marketing Association. So we've been around now since 2010. So we just did our 15-year anniversary last November. So it's interesting, right? To look back over all of this time and to know and see that location data and services and all the things related to that, still have a lot of value and are still growing even as a business for many companies in our ecosystem. But yeah, we're excited to be here.
Okay. So it's been 15 years, well, 16 years by this year of the LBMA location-based marketing. So can you tell us well, let's start off with what's your background and how you started off, your career and how you ended up starting the LBMA.
Sure. So prior to the LBMA, I was, involved with a number of startups, but just before that, for the few years leading into the creation of the LBMA, I was running a company called Vex Wi-Fi. So this was a company providing free Wi-Fi in restaurant chains, coffee chains, multi-location franchise businesses. And at this time, Wi-Fi. So we're going back now to like 2007, 2008. Wi-Fi, at least in Canada and US, in these types of businesses was really not available. And if it was available, it was a pay-per-use kind of service, like a Boingo type of model, if you remember Boingo. It's still there. Some people are still using that.
Yeah.
But we came with a model of it's free Wi-Fi, but you have to watch a short video ad. And the ads in our case were location based, so they were local businesses near where you were using this free Wi-Fi. So if you were in this coffee shop, it might be an ad for the local gym or fitness center, around the corner or something like that. And so, it was very early days of, this kind of location specific advertising. When I sold the company in 2009, I guess, we had, some strict non-competes from a legal perspective of, working in this space from the company that bought it. And so, but I could see at that time that there was this big wave of location-based services starting to emerge. So late 2009 into 2010, you had Foursquare was created that year. You had Google had a platform called Latitude. There was a Foursquare competitor called Gowalla. So all of these companies were launching in and around between 2009 and 2010. And so I could see this big wave coming. And didn't want to miss that opportunity. So, long story short, talked to the lawyers, and I'm like, how do I get around this non-compete from doing location-based stuff? And we came up with the idea, well, what if you created the not-for-profit industry association to bring all of these new companies together? And that was really the birth of the LBMA, how it came to be. It started only in Canada initially, and then we had a few events, and quickly, Twitter was also brand new at that time, and we were posting on Twitter and using this platform, and people in New York and Chicago and other places were hearing about what we were doing, and they were like, "Oh, we want to be part of that." And so very quickly, we had new chapters emerging in different cities all over the world, and that was really the sort of origin story of the LBMA.
Okay. Yeah, so back then everything was new and everything with the mobile phone introductions. I mean, the smartphone introduction, things has completely changed and the big wave was actually big, subsided, many things that has not, the mobile flip phones couldn't do, especially the GPS related, the data, usage and all that. So it's been 15 years, 16 years, since this association has launched. And over the past 15 years, there were a lot of things that happened, uh, and most recently, I think the AI introduction of the AI is changing the landscape of the location-based marketing as well. Can you give us some updates on what's happening with AI and the location data and all that?
Yeah, I think a couple of things, that we see around AI right now. So number one, for the big sort of data aggregators and providers of geofencing and POI data and these kinds of things, you're seeing a lot of use of AI to really query huge volumes of data that in the past, took a lot of machine learning, took a lot of, manual exercises to do this very fast, to build queries, and ask questions of, large data sets, geo-specific data sets and get back answers, right? So like in the past, if I needed to understand like how many people went to the Starbucks, it would take a lot of work to do that with a lot of computing power. And now, basically if the AI, has access to, these core data sets, it can do this analysis very fast and spit out the answers for you. So I think that's number one. We see a lot of that there. I think the other things that we're seeing is a lot of sort of predictive modeling now in terms of where, for retailers, a lot of the real estate site selection exercises that historically, again, were done, with big computing, are now, AI is basically able to crunch data and say, okay, if you want to build a new store, this is where we recommend to do it. Or to ask questions like, I know, for example, McDonald's here in North America was experimenting recently with, which of their locations, of their thousands of locations that they have, could perform better during lunch hours and based on traffic flows and, work businesses nearby and all sorts of other things that you can't really do easily without AI, being able to crunch, those types of data. So I think both from a service provider perspective, you're seeing huge, cost savings in manpower and whatnot, but also from a brand and retailer perspective, getting a lot of benefits in terms of how they're able to ask questions and of their own business and be able to predict, where they can generate more revenue or things like that.
Hmm. So, in short, for retailers, it costs much less to get the type of the information or the marketing aspects that they are looking for than before. Would you say that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Right. And I think it's just like beyond like I mean AI is like sort of involved in everything now, but I
Hmm.
would say like one of the biggest changes, that you can see over the 15, 16 years is like in the early days, it was really a lot of it was where's this user now? And oh, they're here. Let's send them a message because they're in this area. And it's really moved a lot away from that to more contextual based engagement now. So, like a good example of that is we were looking at some work that the Marks and Spencer in the UK, where they connected sort of the billboard advertising, the digital out-of-home advertising they had near stores, directly to the live inventory data of what's available in their stores. So the ads you're seeing on the screens, like as you're in the neighborhoods walking around, are coming up and saying, this product is currently in stock. How many are left? There's 10 units available. Go to the store now and save today on that. So it's like real time, but contextual to what's going on in the area. And in some cases, factoring other things like weather data and other stuff as well. So I think there's a lot of that type of stuff happening. And I think even you're seeing now too, like, how AI is helping them to, sort of manage that process of, what is the inventory data? What is this data? Connecting the data sets together to create smarter, campaigns and advertising engagements there.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, yes. Speaking of the There are a lot of data is now involved because of the processing takes place on the AI side that the humans do not need to, physically, nothing is physical anymore, but do this by themselves. So now the use of the different POI data, including some of the personal information, are being used more often than ever. So, what's happening with as far as the privacy goes in North America? I know that we've looked at the GDPR EU side. AI Act has enacted and all that, but what's
Mhm.
happening in North America, especially in the US market these days?
Not a lot yet. There's a lot of discussions going on, at the federal level as well as, California and other states still have their, state-specific privacy regulations, but nobody's actually signed anything into law in the last, year and a half or so. So we're still waiting for that. Same goes for Canada here. There's a lot of discussion about it where I am, but nothing's happening there. And I suspect that we're not going to see anything federally in the next little while, just given the current political climate, the midterm elections coming up, and so on. So it's highly unlikely, I think, that we're going to see any changes in the next, sort of 18 to 24 months. But certainly people are watching that. I think also too, like part of the US specific answer to that is you have, again, for political reasons, you have a lot of connectivity between the executive leadership of the U.S. government and big tech companies, where they're very friendly to each other, let's call it that. And so
Right, right.
where other administrations might want to lock down more, what these companies can do and privacy being a part of that, I think it's not high on the agenda because there's so much sort of good friendship, goodwill going on between big tech and the Trump administration at the moment. So I don't see much happening there in the short term. That being said, I think the most of the brands, the big retailers and such here are, very privacy conscious in what they're doing. They're, sort of taking steps, let's say, to make sure that they're not following any identifiable consumer directly. They're, sort of they're building, more audience-based targeting as opposed to individual targeting, right? And I think that's, generally, what we see across all of North America right now.
Okay. So, what's happening with the retail media? Last time we spoke, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, everything was about retail media happening in stores and, connected to outstore location-based marketing and all that. Anything new happening there?
Not a lot new. I mean, definitely all the major retailers, Kroger, Walmart, Target, all these types of big brands have built retail media networks. It's a huge part of their business now. They see, a good amount of revenue coming from that. I think what's happening, if I have to say, like, sort of a trend we're seeing now is the integration of what they were selling on the in-store media networks as a standalone product now being combined with their other, sort of advertising spends, or so combining it with their out of home, combining it with their CTV, with their billboards, their TV and everything else, so that at least from their own advertising perspectives, like it's fully integrated. And then, kind of working with the CPGs where they're offering up other inventory. I think the other thing that we're seeing is in some cases, like even with like Best Buy, for example, you're seeing now where they're advertising products on their retail media networks in their stores that they don't even sell at
Hmm.
all. Right. So that's interesting because for them, they're just seeing it purely as like a digital out of home network that they're generating ad revenue from, whether they carry the products or they don't. They're not necessarily beholden to that. So I think that's really interesting. Um, and then obviously the other one is, what does the attribution side of that look like? How many people were in the store exposed to that ad? Can they tie it to a transaction? All those kinds of things have really evolved in the last, year or so, which they weren't there in the early days of the retail media networks.
Hmm. So, you mentioned some marketers are marketing the products that's not selling in the stores, but displaying those ads in the store. Well, what's the purpose of that? Is that for the
Pure revenue.
impressions
It's
or?
they're just generating revenue from selling the advertising.
Yeah, but I mean, from advertisers' point of view, why do they want to, show their products?
Because if they think the target audience of the people who are shopping in that store is their target audience, then why not? It would be the same as, if I'm buying a billboard on
Mm,
a street corner intersection, why am I buying that? Because the people in that intersection, hopefully are my target audience. And in this case, it's the same thing. It's just I'm reaching them inside of a retail store, with my product. I mean, and especially for brands that are pure play online brands that don't have
mm.
physical stores themselves. If I'm like I don't know, like an online eyeglass retailer or shaving company or cosmetics company or something like that, and I don't, just a pure online company. I don't have physical stores. Why wouldn't I advertise inside of somewhere else where my target audience might be?
That's interesting. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. So gambling, online gambling,
Hmm.
it's not allowed here in Japan yet. It doesn't look like it's gonna be. But as I'm watching a lot of sports like baseball, Major League Baseballs and all that, I start to see for the past couple of years there are a lot of advertisement coming from the online gambling and all that. I think it's taking its toll, and looks like it is a huge business there, right? So, and the advertisement has there been any sort of the location-based marketing evolving through the big money coming off of the online gambling and all?
Yes, in a couple of ways. So I think number one, I mean, historically, you have location data being used, to limit who can gamble or not gamble, because in the US, for example, this is at a state by state level. So in some states it's allowed, in other states it's not. But if you're living in a state where it's not allowed, location data is used to block you from gambling in a state where it is allowed online. So there's those kinds of control mechanisms that are in place. The same goes for, it's kind of works similarly to how like if I I'm trying to use like a streaming TV service when I'm not in the market where, I paid for. So that's number one. But definitely we see a lot of that in the online gambling space. This sort of regulatory component to that. So there's a big company in a US company called GeoComply that is the sort of the leader in providing this kind of technology around, understanding who's the player, where they are, from a location, are they in the right jurisdiction, are they permitted to bet or not bet, those kinds of things. So that sort of regulatory side of it, I think is interesting. I think the other thing is like a lot of the sports betting apps themselves, you're seeing now where they're using location like SDK type of data within their apps to understand who their users are, like who the people who've downloaded those apps who are using it, who they are, where they're shopping, where they're eating, all those kinds of things, so that they can basically sell ads to relevant companies that they can generate revenue within the betting apps themselves, not non-betting revenue through advertising. So you're seeing a lot of that. And then I think there's starting now, I think it's still pretty early, but you're starting to see now a lot of in-stadium, like live in the game type of betting, like for people who are physically present, using, beacons, indoor positioning, other things to know who's physically there within a property, and then opening up, sort of betting to people through text or other things, not even app specific, just to the people who are in that physical location. So it's gated, but in a different way, to that specific, like we know where you are right now at the game. So you're going to start to see, I think, more and more of that kind of thing. So those are some of the things that we see in the gambling space, I think.
Interesting. All right. Well, maybe not the last, but how are things with the LBMA North America? What's happening and what's going to happen from now on?
Yeah, so things are relatively stable here in North America. We are last year we had the big 15-year anniversary conference in November. We have another conference coming up this year in mid-October. So we're getting ready to start pushing this right now in the next weeks. So that's kind of what's on the table. And then, as I mentioned at the top set, we'll be relaunching the LBMA podcast show in a different way with a monthly podcast, more focused on guests and members than sort of the news of the industry. Because I think we were finding like a lot of the news of the industry, like AI is kind of answering a lot of that now. We don't need to do that for a lot of people. Like it's easy for them to figure out what's happening. But these kind of interviews with members and those kinds of things, I think, are still relevant, creating sort of, that type of unique content. So going, more back to that, but only that type of format. And then we're going to be in the new year launching a series of dinners across North America in various cities, New York, Austin, etc. To kind of bring the member base together, for more casual meetups and these kinds of things on a regular basis. So that's kind of the North America plan. A lot of that's already happening in Europe and Asia as well. So, for example, we're going to be in Singapore in September, and so we have an LBMA meetup, I think, happening on the 22nd of September in Singapore. Similar kind of thing to what I was just talking about that's going to be happening in North America in the new year. And we've been doing these, over the last little while anyways, in Europe and in Asia. So that's really, the focus right now is kind of keeping the membership engaged, bringing the people together for networking purposes, and then having, a North American conference, a European conference, and obviously you have your Japan conference as well, as part of that ecosystem. I would say also like we're seeing still a lot of growth in Southeast Asia in terms of new activity and engagement in Vietnam and Thailand and in these kinds of markets. So that's been interesting. And I think even in sort of Europe and the Middle East last year, we had an event in Dubai. And that was, pretty successful, and we're kind of exploring, what to do further in this market. Kind of a little hesitant given the current climate over in this region, but we're evaluating that to figure out, how to support, members and companies there that are interested in kind of being part of that. And as you can imagine, like, a market like Dubai is very big in the retail space, so they're always looking at innovation and technology, around this type of stuff. So. Yeah, so that's kind of what's happening with the LBMA.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the your time, and it was good catching up with you, and we'll see what we uh, collaborate to do in a short time. はい、
Great. Thank you so much for having me, and it's great to see you again.
はい、Thank you.